What is going on, YouTube people? Northeast Ohio Sports Cards here today for a little 1 week into the playoff NBA market update. I was just curious how a bunch of different players' prices are performing now that we are officially into the playoffs. And some guys are really playing quite well. Some teams are playing quite well. Card market aside, this is the most fun I've had watching NBA playoff games in a first round in a long time. Bucks Heat's been, game one was really fun. Game two was kind of a blowout. Everything with the Grizzlies has been fun. The Hawks Knicks series is a ton of fun. Suns Lakers game one was a ton of fun. I hope Chris Paul's healthy to make that an interesting series. I would like to see those two teams go out or battle full force. Blazers Nuggets has been ridiculously high scoring. Clippers gonna Clipper. Luka just running roughshod over the Clippers has been absolutely fascinating. But this has just been an extremely fun first week of the NBA playoffs. So I am recording this Thursday evening prior to any games being played. So I do not know the results of any Thursday games. So if something crazy happens and drastically swings prices for Friday morning, I am not going to be aware of that. Just kind of a nature of the beast this time of year. Other quick note before we dive in, I will not be dropping a formal video on Saturday, but I am planning on, there's no local card shows on Saturday. So I think I might do a live Saturday morning at some point in time. I don't know when. Just depends what time I get up and get moving, but I will do some type of live in the morning on Saturday, maybe early afternoon, sometime pre-lunch East Coast, I'm thinking, but I don't know the exact time. I'll try to post it a little bit ahead of time, but no formal video drop on Saturday. And I may begin to do that going forward with no formal video drop on Saturday morning, but as long as there's no card shows or anything, maybe pop off and do a quick live. So before we get into it, YouTube nonsense down below, like, comment, sub, all that jazz. Market Movers affiliate link is down there with a discount code. If you want to check it out, that's where all the charts and graphs come from that we use in the videos, and the eBay affiliate link if you want to support the channel. That does help because between that, ad revenue, stuff like that, I am looking to buy a new laptop to be able to edit and post video more efficiently at the National. Currently, right now, I do everything on a desktop gaming PC. So if you wonder, hey, he makes money off this stuff, does he just roll around in it in his comic books and cards? Yes, I do buy some comic books and cards with it, but I do also put it back into the channel with new camera equipment, and in this case, a new laptop that I am eyeing up to be able to get content out quicker and maybe be able to do lives more efficiently at if I travel to an event like that. But I'm beginning to scheme for net content for the National, and I have some ideas going. But I need a little equipment upgrade to get there. So I'm looking to make some plays on the tech side of things. With all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into Market Movers and talk about some individual cards. So first up, now let me just talk generally first before we dive into some cards. You could tell right off the get that the market is way smarter this time around than last year. Like, I know it's going down, like in general, the market's in a downswing right now, but you could just tell people are a lot smarter. These random guys that are going off in individual games are not seeing huge price bumps like they were last year. And the legit good players going off, I mentioned this in a couple videos. I don't remember if it was the one with She Collects Cards or one of the other ones, but I think I've said this a couple different times. Trae going off the other night, John Morant going off the other night on their win, and then they ended up losing game two. But I feel like a year ago at this time, those guys putting up those types of performances, their cards would have went up like 60% overnight. And these random role players going off, their cards would have doubled, tripled, 10x'd in the matter of an hour. And you're not seeing that because people learn their lessons on the Taylor Horton Tucker, Bulls, and those sorts of guys over the last year on how, oh, wait, I'm going to get caught holding the bag with these guys. Maybe I shouldn't actually buy them. And you're seeing what I would consider more normal market movement on the better players that are winning in some cases. there's still some interesting cases where the market's trying to find itself. And we'll start with number one, Giannis. So Giannis's stuff, and I went 7 days for all these because 7 days takes us right back to the beginning of the playoffs, right before the playoffs started. The play-in games had finished, and the playoff matchups were set. So I went back exactly 7 days on all these just to get an idea of how the market has shifted so far in the early days of the playoffs. And I pulled a bunch of different star players. We're going to talk about a lot of guys. But Giannis is trending down still. His Hoops PSA 10 Prism is all the way down to $550 now. I'm sorry. Yeah, Hoop. I said Hoops PSA 10 Prism. His PSA 10 Hoops is down to $550 already. His Prism PSA 10 is down to $2,100, and his Select is actually holding steady at around $1,100. So in the market, regardless, the Bucks are up 2-0. Either doesn't believe that they're going to beat the Nets, who they're on a collision course for, and that his stuff's still overinflated, overvalued, whatever you want to call it, because it continues to go down, even though they're up 2-0, and he's been playing fairly well. To me, them versus the Nets is going to be a massive series. And, I had originally picked the Sixers to come out of the East. They look more beatable now than I initially thought. And I forget what podcast it was. One of the ESPN ones, they were talking about, the Nets Bucks might be the Eastern Conference Finals in the second round of the playoffs. Like whoever wins that is very good chance that's the team that's coming out of the East. If the Bucks can pull that off, I have to imagine Giannis sees a price bump. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But his stuff trending down is definitely interesting. His Select holding firm at around 1,000 is also interesting. And it's not like his stuff's super high pop count. I've always really liked the Hoops, to be quite honest with you. Like this card at around $500 just seems wild to me, but everything seems wild to me right now with the way the prices are going. So, buy at your own risk right now, essentially. But if they can pull off the upset against the Nets, and I think it would be an upset, though they're both going to be really good teams, that's going to be a good series. If they can get through the Nets, then they could beat anybody, basically, and vice versa. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. But as of right now, even though Giannis is playing well, his stuff is trending down. The Lakers look meh. I think they get, I don't want to say smoked if Chris Paul was 100%, but I don't think it's much of a series. Maybe he goes 6 games or something, but the Chris Paul injury definitely completely changes that series to this point. He did not look right, obviously, in game 2 and did not play a lot, but the Lakers haven't looked great either. And I think the market's semi shook on them. Over the last week, AD's base PSA 10 Prism is down 27%. All the way down to $1,200. Once again, I don't know how much of this, it's just weird right now. Like how much of this is the fact that the Lakers look shaky. Like they may get through the Suns, but I don't think they're winning the West at all. And how much of this is that, and how much of this is just the general downtrend of the NBA market. We're going to get to some players that are bucking that trend that have been playing well, but AD going down. And like I said, I kind of get this, but I just don't know which one's causing it, or it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. His running mate, obviously, got these out of order. LeBron, his 2003, the much talked about, much ballyhooed, Topps Chrome PSA 10 Prism, also down on the week, 15%, down to 20K eBay comp. These were readily available at Dallas. I know on Sasha T's video, he bought one for $18,500. They seem to be going between $18,500 and $19,500. When She Collects Cards was on, she talked about how, on the first day of the show, they were going for one price and then they were dropping like a couple $100, like as the hours literally wore on. So I guess 20K feels natural for an eBay comp if they're going for $18,500 off eBay. But this card continues to go down. And once again, on this one, I think it's more a general case of the market, but LeBron hasn't looked great in the playoffs so far. I don't think he's close to being 100%. And once again, you have two things working against this here. The market's trending down, and they just did not look like a Western Conference Finals team, in my opinion. I just don't see how they get there currently assembled / playing. They just look very rusty and very not healthy. And even with Chris Paul banged up, there's a chance that they do not get through the Suns. We will see. KD stuff also trending down. This is his PSA 10 Topps Chrome. Is down another 12% this week from 7,500 to 6,500. And they're cruising on to the next round. So this is, once again, general market trends, or they do have a date with the Bucks next round. And though they will be favored, it's not like they're playing the Wizards where it's just going to be a pushover. But his stuff continues to get cheaper, cheaper, and cheaper. This is a pretty low population card. There's only 960 of them in a PSA 10. Pretty tough grade. It's not like a ton of these are getting graded in a 10 anymore. This gets enticing at some point in time if you play up at this game and you think that they have a chance to win it all, and he adds another ring onto his belt. Not even necessarily so much for the quick flip, but just from an overall legacy standpoint, winning one with a second team, bringing it to Brooklyn, all that stuff. So interesting price movement on him. Essentially, all the higher end stuff, if something was highly priced like Giannis, AD, LeBron, KD, all that stuff's coming down pretty much regardless of how good or bad they're playing. The lower end stuff is getting a little bit of a bounce back. Case in point, my boy, Ja Morant. This is his base optic, Prism, Select Concourse, and Select Premier are all up, except for the Premier, actually. His Premier has remained flat throughout most of the week, if not down slightly. There were some really good deals at auction on these over the weekend before the playoffs actually started, like last weekend. Concourse up 62%, Prism Base up 23%, Optic up 17%. This card got all the way down to $232, has spiked back up to $286. That's with them losing a game too, but he did drop 47 or 50 in that game. I forget. In game 2, I fell asleep late in the fourth quarter. These West Coast, living on the East Coast in these 10:30 start West Coast games are brutal. Just brutal. So Ja does seem to be ticking in the right direction, showing, kind of what a lot of people questioned all season. Is he really an NBA superstar level player? And so far in the NBA playoffs, the play-in game, he is showing that, hey guys, for anyone that was questioning me, like I am legit. What he's showing in the playoffs is kind of what I believed in and why I always put Morant over Zion. Whether you agree with that or not is neither here nor there, but no one can deny that Ja is absolutely balling out so far in the playoffs, and the prices are beginning to reflect that slightly. I also pulled his PSA 10 Prism Silver. I did look at some of the other ones, but quite honestly, not a lot of them sold this week. So it was only like one data point in some cases, which is no percentage change, or like 2. And I just don't like to base a lot of assumptions off that. But his Prism Silver, 7 of them sold this week and did see a nice increase. 20% jump, went from about 1,600 to about 1,900. Another one on the move this week quite a bit is Trae. He was up actually higher. And then when they lost game 2, things kind of slowed down a little bit, the momentum there. So we'll see what happens when they get back to Atlanta. I think that series could easily go 7. That has been my favorite series to watch so far. The crowd, just seeing an energetic crowd at a basketball game. You realized watching that game how much we've kind of missed that as a TV viewing experience when it comes to NBA games. But that has been, in my opinion, other than Luka just rolling over the Clippers, that's been one of the most fun series to watch. All those games has been fantastic. Trae Young becoming like the new Knicks villain has been absolutely fantastic to watch. So his stuff, like I said, it was up a little bit more, but did pull back with the game 2 loss. So we'll see what happens as this goes on. But Prism Base up 5%, Optic up 1%, Concourse up 11%, Premier flat. But if we hop over to his silver took a massive jump. His Silver Prism jumped 56% from 1,100 to 1,800 in the past 7 days. So just like Ja, the Prism Silvers, anyway, seem to be getting bigger bumps than the base cards, especially on Trae. Only 2,000 of those, a little bit more rare. So it does seem maybe the smarter money, instead of chasing after the base stuff, might be going more for the silvers, the hollows. Like I said, I didn't have a lot of sales data on Jaw's other stuff, but Morant's Optic Hollow was also up quite a bit, but only like 2 have sold in the last 7 days. Or I actually had to run back 14 days to get 2 sales on that, but that one had made a pretty significant jump as well. But yeah, Trae up 56% on the silver. His base cards, like I said, did take a jump, took a small step backwards. If they win another game, I have a feeling they will continue to trend the right direction. And that Hawks team's a ton of fun. I do think the Hawks are going to end up beating the Knicks. I do think they're the slightly better team. And I think Hawks 76ers will be a very interesting series if it happens. I think Knicks 76ers could be extremely boring unless you like, 2002 style basketball, like Rip Hamilton Pistons era basketball, because that feels like what that series would be like. Let's get to the man, the myth, the legend himself. One Mr. Luka, one man wrecking crew against the Clippers. And as we like to say around here, Clippers gonna Clipper, and boy howdy are they. And need I remind you that Leonard's a free agent potentially at the end of this season. He has a player option that he can choose to decline. And him as a free agent in the market would really shift the entire landscape of this upcoming free agent class. That would really change a lot of teams' destinies if he latches on with another star. Dallas Mavericks. I don't know if they have the cap space or not. I'm sure they could get there if they really wanted to. But yeah, Leonard going back to Texas and then teaming up with Luka. Still my beating heart. I'm a Cavs fan at heart, but man, do I love Luka. Let's look at his stuff. His is one that the market doesn't know what to do with it. His optic is down slightly. His base prism has been all over the place. It started at 900 7 days ago. It actually dropped down to the low 800s on Saturday night to 830 and is now back up to 955. His concourse is basically up slightly and his premiere is down slightly. So the market is no idea what it wants to do with Luka, but I think they are potentially sweeping the Clippers. They're going home now, and I have to imagine that the Dallas Mavericks arena is going to be completely packed. It's Texas. I just think it's going to be a completely full house, and the Clippers were basically playing in a nearly empty arena. And I can imagine the fans are going to be going nuts for Luka. They have not really got to see Luka in a playoff series at this level. So I'll be very curious to see what they look like at home. I was disappointed to find out that was a Friday night game, not a Thursday night game. So his silver, slight uptick right after the second game. It seems like the market was like, you know what? I don't buy it quite yet. Let me see what you do in game 2. And they won. And then his silver went on a little run. It's up 6% on the week, up $350. And you could see his base prism did the same thing. It was kind of flatline. And then the last couple of days, it's been creeping up. So if they end up moving on to the next round or sweeping the Clippers or anything like that, then I could see it maybe continuing to creep up a little bit more. But it looks like, once again, the silver is getting just a little bit more love than the base card. Not much difference on Luka. He's been kind of flat to this point. Slightly up. Just a little. Not just a little. So, but it takes a lot to move that base prism price when you have that many of them on the market at any given time. But the more rare stuff, we will see how that plays out. Last but not least, I wanted to look at Tatum. His stuff, they're basically pricing in the exit already. They're probably going to get swept, most likely. His stuff does continue to fall. Optic base down 17%. Prism base down 13%. Concourse down 1%. This took a big nosedive right prior to the playoffs. In his premiere, it shows up 47%, but it was one sale that spiked it way up. One of these sold for $525, kind of out of nowhere. I didn't look at the auction to see if maybe it was shilled, but I do question that one a little bit just because it seems a little out of the norm. That is a very low pop count card. There's only 220 of them. And older select still does get the love in the market recently. So I'll be curious to see what the next one sells for. I'm just not 100% buying this as like a real number. My guess is that it would, in reality, is probably staying in line with the concourse and staying basically flat, but we shall see. So that's Tatum stuff. Like I said, I wanted to kind of dip in there because the market is essentially pricing him as being done. So his stuff continues to crater, and I really want to see where the floor is on Tatum because I would be very interested in potentially buying in at the floor or close to the floor. I had one more. Sorry, Mitchell. This is a weird one as well. The whole situation with the injury thing, missing game one, kind of sent him in a downward spiral. He obviously played game two, looked pretty good, left for the locker room for a quick minute. I don't know that it was ankle related. I don't think I ended up seeing or that I don't believe that they said why he went back. I assume that it was for that, but I could be wrong. So his market's been kind of flat on the week. Prism base down 16%. I'm sorry, optic base down 16%. Prism base at 0%. Select concourse down about 10%. I have a vested interest here, so I'm hesitant to say that this is an intriguing play to dive back in on Mitchell because the Jazz did look pretty good. I think they are going to end up beating the Grizzlies. That's not really like a super like hot take there. The Grizzlies are going to give them a fight, but I think that they end up pulling it out. And maybe that's good for the Jazz to kind of get their mojo back in an actual tough first round series before they start running into the more upper echelon teams. But if you believe in the Jazz, buying a Mitchell dip when they're 1-1 in that series is intriguing. It's so hard to say to like, go make a play on something right now with the way that the market is trending. But I'm at least intrigued, especially on like the concourse, or maybe you dip your toe in 150 for his optic seems dirt cheap. I have two optics. I have a prism. I'm into them for much higher numbers than that because I bought them before he got injured and before the market went down. At the time, I thought they were good prices, but I didn't know he was going to turn his ankle. So that one's intriguing to me if you think they can make a deep run in the playoffs. But that's all I got for you guys and girls today. Like I said, just kind of wanted to check in on the NBA market with it being a week into the playoffs essentially now. See how the market's treating the playoffs. Are guys going up like crazy like they were last year? No. Are we seeing increases for players winning and potentially moving on? In some cases, not all cases. More so the lower price stuff like Ja and Trae. The higher price stuff, I think the correction is still in play, like the LeBron, the Durant, AD, that sort of stuff. Giannis, even. I think that's still in market correction territory. And people kind of, being lukewarm on how those teams have looked so far in the playoffs, especially the Lakers. So the higher end stuff, I think, is market correction stuff still going on. The lower end stuff, I think, is more real. And like I said, Trae a Trae Silver going up, that's a little high, 56%, but silver is a little bit more rare. Ja's Silver jumping 20% for looking like a superstar seems completely normal to me. But like I said at the beginning of the video, I feel like if this was 2020 bubble playoffs and the Grizzlies had made the playoffs and they won their first game and he dropped 50 in game two and beat the Warriors in a play-in game to get in, I feel like that would be up way, way more. Different world, obviously, back then than we are to now. But this just feels more normal, if that makes sense. So I think if we could get to the point that this higher price stuff levels out at whatever its new baseline is going to be, I am encouraged for things to get back to a normal cyclical period after this correction or whatever we want to call it. We've discussed it a bunch this week. So, but yeah, that's officially all I have for you guys and girls today. Don't forget, no Saturday video, but probably a live Sunday normal recap show. And then we'll catch you on Monday for comic book nonsense. Don't forget the YouTube stuff down below. Catch you on the next one. Peace.